On the next all-new episode of Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War.
It's you. Hey, been a while, hasn't it? Ichigo. Grimjow. Don't tell me you were thinking I was dead. Ha! No way I was ever gonna die before killing you.
Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War. The Conflict. Next Saturday at midnight. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Hello, viewers, and welcome to our year-end-ish podcast of Toonami Therapy. I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello, I'm Tommy.
And I say year-end-ish because I think we actually will have one podcast to record after this, but it shouldn't really affect this one because right now this is our end-of-year ranking. We're going to go through the stuff we watched, or at least the stuff that qualifies, which is basically there had to be enough episodes that we watched. So for example, some series, a bunch of the series we might have dropped earlier on will not be applicable for this. It couldn't be. You know what? I'm not going to go through criteria. I'm just going to list them quick for everyone.
Yep.
All right. Here's what they were. These were about the order we added them. So we've got Yu Yu Hakusho starting with episode 34. We've got Shangri-La Frontier season 2, Blue Lock season 2, Mashal, One Piece 699 onward, Blue Exorcist, ReZero season 3 part 2, Lazarus and Shirley, Witch Watch, My Hero Academia, Vigilantes, Kowloon Generic Romance, Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War, Dragon Ball Daima, Don to Don, just the first cur though, and Kaiju number 8 season 2. That's them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
it's my favorite show of the entire year, so looking forward to this.
All right, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how much one of us hated the series the other really liked.
Who's going first?
I think you can, but
okay.
Before I get to that, I wanted to talk a little more about something to make a little more of a jokey competition. We decided to kind of make predictions about certain things, like what will be the highest, the lowest of the other person, what will be number 8, just midway through, the highest average between us, the lowest average between us, and which series will have the largest split in our rankings.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if my number 1 is your number 16, then that would be the biggest. I don't think we'll have something that big, but we can find out. I honestly, yeah, we'll see how this goes. I literally just today made a few adjustments to mine, so we'll see how things go. Well, I guess right away we're going to find out whether we correctly predicted our top ones. And just to better clarify, each of us wrote our top guess and our second guess. If you get the first guess, your top guess right, you get 2 points. The second guess, you get 1 point, and anything else, you get nothing. So I'll be trying and probably unsuccessfully succeeding to do that. So keep track of that. All right, let's get going. You first.
Number 16. Um, so, as I said, this one has to be one that I just has to be more than just me not liking it. It has to be me hating the show. And for that, I'm going with Lazarus. Number 16, Lazarus. Because, first of all, there was a whole lot of political crap with this show, which made me feel like they had ulterior motives with it. And the plot made no sense. Um, we learned a little bit about these characters, but not enough to make me care about them. And we were learning about their backstories whenever the entire world was about to die. So it made no sense why we were trying to build up these characters. And then the solution for it doesn't happen until like the last 30 seconds of the last episode. So there's barely any time to have close up the open ends. And yeah, everything about this show was awful. I didn't like any of the characters. Um, yeah, and of course there were some political things that were thrown in there, which is like, okay, did Cartoon Network demand certain things to be put in here or what? But yeah, it just was terrible, and it is my pick for last place.
Well, that was my first guess at your last place. So
Was it?
2 points for me. When so and well, that's also my 16th place, which let me guess. What was it? What was my which was also my prediction for lowest average. I'm on 4 points already. But
Oh,
so I don't know what your prediction for my lowest was.
I didn't get it right.
Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, I did not dislike it as much as you did, but I still disliked it the most. One comment in regards to whether Cartoon Network told him to put stuff. The author in this interview, the main person behind it, he did say that outside of just asking him to make like a more serious science fiction show, they were pretty hands off on everything. So that would have been
Okay.
his. But yeah, on the whole, just not very interesting, kind of stretched out, didn't really. I mean, I feel kind of bad still putting this on the very bottom because when I look at the ones at my rankings from last year, this would be like maybe fifth from the bottom that year. Now, granted, we had 28 things there, so that might be part of it, but I just thought it was mostly underwhelming and kind of boring, but I didn't outright dislike it as much as my last place last time, which was Rick and Morty, the anime.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I have to agree mostly with what you said. It just, it was just kind of dull. And unfortunately, as always, it's always some Toonami stuff that ends up towards the bottom because if it's not on Toonami, we just drop it. So,
Yeah.
but then we keep watching it. So it ends up at the bottom. I will say this might be, at least in my view, probably one of the better last place spots for me, but just still wasn't very good. So unfortunately, that's the bottom for me also.
Yeah. So I did not guess your worst. I had either One Piece or Kowloon as your last place. Um, I did actually, for the average, I had Lazarus as my second pick. Um, I won't give away what the other one is yet,
Okay.
but um, yeah. So I got 1 point. You got 4 points already.
There's still a
So
lot more to be given.
yeah. Okay, number 15. Well, this one probably what you originally thought. It's Dragon Ball Daima, and yeah, I I just found this to be really boring. It took away from the characters we knew and the ones that we really loved, and it just brought in some new dull characters and based series around them. And Goku was really the only main character who was around them, and those characters were not able to carry the show, and it turned out to be really, really boring. It didn't make me hate it. It just was something where I was just like, I don't really care, and that's why it ends up down here. Um, you know, I'm thinking that it might, yeah, yeah, it's bad. I'm
Mhm.
thinking it might be a little better than I said, but no, it's just bad. It was not even good for Dragon Ball, and I'm not a huge Dragon Ball fan, but um, at least I knew the characters from Dragon Ball and liked the characters, and we didn't get to see most of those characters. We got to see other people. So yeah, Dragon Ball Daima, that's my 15th place pick.
Well, it's not my 15th place pick, although you mounted a pretty good argument as to why maybe I should have dropped it down to 15
Mhm.
now that I think about it. But no, for me, 15th place would be One Piece. It's so annoying because it's I like I can tell that if I were to watch this with a reasonable pace, it would be more interesting. But I'm not. I'm watching the anime that's just padded out to all heck. The series where they took a one panel and turned it into 3 minutes. The all sorts of stuff like that, and it just hurts it so much. I'll I'll for my next pick, I'll explain better why I put that above One Piece, but it was a close call. But yeah, it is just a little. I would absolutely not be watching this if it was not on Toonami. I would just, if I wanted to catch up, I'd read the manga, not the anime, which is just what one day a One Piece Kai will come, perhaps, and then I'll be able to watch that and put it higher in my rankings. But for now, just what could have been a much more interesting series is just so completely ruined by the bad pacing the anime had seen. And honestly, I think the pacing even of the original was a bit slow in some of this stuff, but the anime it just shows how much this pacing stuff can hurt it. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's me, One Piece, 15.
And that's what I was expecting would be your last one, so I was close, but didn't get it. This next one, contemplating whether it should have been lower because I didn't like it, but I guess I felt it was a higher quality show than the other two, so it made it the number 14. That would be Kaiju number 8. Um, I I felt like this missed all the good things about the first season. The first season was pretty good. Let's see, where did I put that last year? I put it like right in the middle last year. Man, we had a lot of stuff last year. But yeah, it was in the top half of my picks last year. In fact, that's it was higher last year than it is this year. Last year I had it 13th and it's 14th with only 16 subs. But yeah, it it became very confusing and it was so dark and it was to the point it was like, okay, we're always having people evacuate and things getting destroyed. Like at what point do you just give up? Because these kaijus are just going to keep on appearing. Like, what's the point of building a skyscraper if there's going to be another kaiju, in a few days? Uh, there are things about this show that just don't make sense. And we kind of lost some of we didn't have that whole excitement about whether whether they can trust Kaiju number 8 or not. It was just kind of like, okay, here's another Kaiju, here's another Kaiju, and um, yeah, I do contemplate whether I should have put this lower, but I didn't like it. I think I hated it more than Dragon Ball, but Dragon Ball was just a lower quality show, so Kaiju gets my 14th spot.
So for me, number 14. Well, it's Dragon Ball Daima. This was a really hard one between putting this and One Piece lower because I feel this one was also really padded out. We did not this. I started saying it early on. I said it throughout it, and once we reached I was speculating this was the case early on. I grew more convinced throughout it, and when we reached the end, I was saying I am 100% sure now. This should have been just 13 episodes, 12 or 13. It was 20 episodes. That is too much. If they had cut that down, they could have gotten a much better paced, much more interesting series. So it suffers from kind of the same problem as One Piece does. Now, on one hand, I do think that One Piece's story, if you get rid of all the padding and stuff, if you were to take these two series and get rid of all their paddings, I think One Piece's would have been better. But I'm still focusing on these. And I just kind of, whenever I'm unsure about these things, I always try to ask myself, if I were to watch another season of this show of the same quality of this season, how excited would I be to watch it? And ultimately, I can kind of concluded that I think I would rather see another season of Daima than another season of this current One Piece stuff, but only by a little bit of a hair. And honestly, you did put in a pretty good argument as to why maybe I should have reversed them, but I decided not to. So yeah, for me, Dragon Ball Daima is at number 14. Once again, you're so good at explaining so many of these things. I'm glad you're going first, but yeah, just we focused a bunch on newer characters, not so much the ones we like. I don't necessarily mind having new ones, but so many. It's the fact that you really just kind of had for too long. You just had Goku, Glorio, I think was his name. Well, Goku could never remember, so what do I care? And Supreme Kai guy, and then finally we brought in other people. But yeah, both this and One Piece just felt so they were padded out. So that's why they both end up here. That's why they were really close to each other, and it was a hard pick. But ultimately, like I said, Dragon Ball Daima was number 14 for me, one slot above One Piece.
Yeah, Dragon Ball was my pick for our lowest combined, my primary pick, that is. I figured I just pick my own 16th and 15th and see what happened.
You were close. So, it's the second lowest so far.
Yeah. So 13, I feel a little bad about ranking this low, but it has to go to Don. I like some of the humor to the show. I think it can be funny at times. Especially there's some scenes that were really, really funny. The problem was there was so much nonsense, and I don't really care about fan service, but there was just a ridiculous amount of it. And then there was so much talk about human parts of the body that just didn't it just didn't make any sense and wasn't necessary and kind of really brought things down. I think if I understood the plot a little bit, I would rank this higher, but as it is, I just feel like it's too confusing for me to get into. I do think I will give it props for its humor, but unfortunately, I have to rank it this low.
Well, I called that one wrong. That was my guess for your 8th place pick. You haven't said my second guess yet, though, so we'll see if I get a point out of that.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, 13. Once again, pretty close to you with this one. Kaiju number 8. I really did like the first season. That was number 5 for me last here, I think. Let me double check on that. Yeah, I had it at 5. And here it's down to 13 because it just I wonder if maybe I would have liked it more if we had watched one episode per week instead of going with 2 per week because that fit our schedule. Because it seemed easier to fit into the schedule that way. This might have been something worked better there, but I just look at this season and it really just doesn't feel like it feels like this season was, when you get down to it, essentially just set up for the next season. It's getting the characters doing some training. It's getting them into like their roles. And then we're going to have a really big battle with all these new kaiju and our characters fighting them in the next season, which hopefully will be more interesting than this one. But this, I was just kind of surprised, very surprised at how apathetic I felt towards it. It just was there. I didn't like really actively have the same kind of problems as I did with the series below it, but I just felt it was, I can't think of a better way to put it other than say, well, it was there. So not really doing anything to stand out one way or the other for me. I can honestly barely even remember a bunch of it. And we watched that kind of recently too. Wasn't it just a few months ago? So yeah, that ended up being kind of low for me. And that's where it is here at number 13.
Okay. So I assume that comes in third worst.
Yes, it is third currently.
Yeah. I don't think it can be topped by any others by the other two, but okay.
Mathematically, I don't think it can.
Yeah. So number 12, finally get the One Piece. So One Piece, I wanted to put this higher. I was going to put this higher because I was like, well, the whole, fight with Doflamingo was pretty good. And, you had some funny moments. So maybe I should put it higher. But the fact of the matter is that just really, it took a long time for anything to happen. So I can't even remember when this year's stuff began and when last year's stuff began. It just was so drawn out and things took forever. And yeah, especially that one episode that really got me was the one where they're all pushing and pushing and pushing up against the cage and not making any progress, but they kept on sewing it and sewing and sewing it, and that was probably the worst example of how much padding this show had. So yeah, One Piece, not very good. I wish I had something better to say about it, but overall, just a not good show.
Well, it didn't. It wasn't lower than Kaiju number 8, but it tied with it in terms of our averages.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that was 12. Okay, for me, 12. My 12th place. This one is Kowloon Generic Romance. It started out decently, but then it just got into, I could not have even told you what was going on in a lot of the episodes. Maybe this is a result of the fact that apparently the anime really rushed through a bunch of stuff compared to the manga, which, by the way, is still going on. Apparently, I don't know where it is. From what I saw at the time the anime ended, people noted that it did seem to be following what the manga was doing. So whenever it ends, I guess we'll be able to look into that. But for me, that was the case. It ends up higher than the ones below this because while the middle was so confusing, and honestly, even the ending was kind of confusing, it still reached what seemed a fulfilling and decent ending. I mean, may not be able to tell you how it got to that ending, but the ending was still decent. That left it more satisfying to me than the series below it, which really, I mean, I guess Daima had an okay ending, but it just kind of felt too much of a, well, we're done with the show now, whereas this felt more planned and proper. So yeah, that's where it was. That's where it was here for me. Kowloon Generic Romance, definitely, it just got too confusing and not that interesting to me. So that's why it beats all the series below it, but why it still ends up kind of low here.
Okay. We're up to number 11 now. We've gone through this pretty quickly. I guess compared to last year, we had 28. How did we get 28 in last year? I don't. I guess we did have that. What was it called? Toonami Rewind. That added some other shows last year. Yeah. So number 11 is Yu Yu Hakusho, and so this one just goes down. You know, the biggest problem Yu Yu Hakusho might have is that we watch it every week. So even its best episodes get brought down by its worst episodes, and it becomes kind of mediocre. And that's kind of where I found this to be. This, along with maybe probably the next three on my list, just in the mediocre category. There are some really funny moments in Yu Yu Hakusho. There's always one good line from Yusuke every episode. But at the same time, I never really got into the Dark Tournament. And yeah, it felt like that took a little too long. And I wasn't a fan of the whole, okay, we killed off Genkai and then we were just going to bring her back. And also, what was the point of them entering the Dark Tournament again? I thought it was so they would, like, get a wish or something, and, like, that never paid off. So, yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho does not make it up into the top half this year. Did we watch this last year? Yeah, it was pretty much the same. It was 19th last year, so about the same range last year. So, yep, Yu Yu Hakusho number 11.
Okay, so for just to answer Dark Tournament, initially it was because Toguro basically said, "Hey, I'm going to kill you if you don't enter the Dark Tournament." So they kind of went in it for that, and then there was supposed to be a wish granted to the winner, but then all the tournament organizers died. So Koenma says, "Well, I guess I'll give it to you," and then Genkai's just back. So yeah, that was kind of a bit of a clumsy way they did conclude it, but that was the explanation we got. Okay. Number 11 for me. This one is Blue Exorcist. This is a series that there was a bunch of stuff I liked, but it was really brought down by some weak stuff. There was all the filler and there's a filler ending at the end of the first season. That wasn't very good. But honestly, that might have actually still been better than the actual canon second season, which got really boring and uninteresting to me. But at least after that, in season 3, it did manage to bring itself up again and become more interesting. It's been much better starting at that point. But once again, you got to average the whole thing. The beginning was that second season, that filler stuff, and honestly, even some of the other things were not as low as that, but were still kind of not so great. It all ends up sort of averaging out into this place here. There's some pretty decent stuff in the show, but there's a lot of stuff I did not really care for. And once again, averages, that brings it here.
All right. So we're all the way to number 10 already. This one, and the other couple above it could have gone in any direction. So I went with Massel here. Massel, I think, it has more to do with the fact that I haven't liked this second season that much, and I think that's the reason why I ranked it lower, because it was pretty good earlier on. It was the best out of Toonami stuff for quite some time, although there wasn't much on Toonami to uh, compare it with. But yeah, I I like the concept, but the concept has gone a little stale now. It's to the point where it's like, okay, we know Massel's just gonna use his incredible strength to get out of every situation, and there isn't anything different about this situation than there was the one before. The one before it, it just seems to be the same thing. Hopefully, they come up with some sort of twist to kind of enliven the show a little bit and make things a little more interesting. For now, it's just kind of middle of the road, middle of the pack, not quite the middle, but uh, yeah, I maybe it deserved to be ranked higher, but I'm putting it here at number 10.
All right, me, number 10. Well, I would not have predicted that I would actually put this higher than you, but it's Don to Don.
Mhm.
It's just I have the exact same problems with the show that you cited. Yes, there's way too much attention in the show on certain anatomical parts, and it's usually not very funny when it does it. But there and also I know this is such a hot take. I actually really thought which episode was it? There like I thought one of the weakest episodes was the one that everyone was crazy about. Which one was it? I'm sorry. I need to double check the episode number. Yeah, number 7. That's the one that was apparently really well received. It's got its own Wikipedia page, believe it or not. So, but I just thought it was, oh look, it's another thing where we just spend an episode on the backstory of a character who dies and we barely knew. But what that was just one episode that didn't really hurt the series that much for me. But maybe I'm just what's the right word, contrarian about things like that. But yeah, still there was some stuff I liked. The comedy, when it wasn't focusing on the unfunny bits, was actually often pretty funny. I did actually rather like the characters for the most part, and even if some things were confusing, the plot was okay. So that's why it ends up here. It's like kind of Blue Exorcist. There is some pretty good, great stuff in here, but also some not so good stuff. But I will say I do think the good stuff was better than Blue Exorcist, and the bad stuff was probably not quite as bad as Blue Exorcist, which is why he ends up one slot higher.
Mhm. Well, with that, that kind of eliminates my chances at getting the biggest gap, because I expected you to like Kaiju number 8 or Don to Don a lot more than me. So both of those are out the window now. So I didn't win that one. So yeah, I haven't. I'm surprised how close we've been so far. Um, let's see. Number 9 is ReZero. A real mixed bag with ReZero. I was going to put this much lower, and then I was like, well, I kind of like those battles, and I like some of the characters who were in there, like Priscilla, and they had some good moments. Maybe it got a free pass because it's been so long since I watched it, so I can't remember. the bad things that I thought about it. But yeah, ReZero kind of there in the middle. It could have been better. Um, I have a bad feeling about where it's going from here. I felt like, you know, okay, we've no Rem and no Crusade, and those are the best two characters. Obviously, we know we're going to get Rem back. But we don't. I have no idea if we'll ever see Crusade again. But will it be better once Rem is back on the show again? Probably not, because we've moved so far past the romance angle between her and Subaru that that's not going to be a problem. But that's for the future. Anyway, yeah, I just did not like One Piece. One Piece. Why did I say one? I'm looking at my list right now, and for some reason I look right at One Piece. No, ReZero number 9.
Well, they both do have a number in their titles. Numbers that are pretty close to each other, actually. Not, it's not, it's a 0 and a 1, whereas Kaiju number 8, that's farther away. Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War, that's really far away.
Yeah.
All right, so there we go. For next one, number 9 for me. That's Anne Shirley. This was a show where I kind of feel like this is a show where in the previous ones were ones where I kind of feel like I really disliked parts of the show, whereas others, but it was brought up by other things. This one, I think, was a series where there were some parts I thought were kind of boring, but I don't think the lows were as low as the things below it. It was just kind of stable for the most part for me. There were some parts that were kind of boring, especially in the middle portion, but not enough to knock it down further. It was fun to see, even if some people say it did go through the story pretty quickly. I now have a better idea of what this series is about. It does make me think maybe I should get around sometime to checking out the later books to see what happens. We'll see how that goes, considering how backed up I am on reading and other things. But I liked, yeah, it was just a decent series. It was pretty consistently that way, even if it, for the most part, didn't reach the highs of some other series I have yet to mention. But it was enjoyable to me. We got to see, and yeah, I'm glad they went this. I'm glad the series went to the end of the third book, because this seemed like a pretty decent place to end the season, and unless they get another season, the anime series.
Okay. Did not expect that, but yeah, you got that a lot lower than I expected for it to be. It wasn't my pick for anything, but okay, so we're going for the middle here, the mushy middle, and that is number 8, Blue Lock. So Blue Lock, I noticed, got a lot of wins early in the year for non-Toonami stuff, so I'm like, well, if I liked it then, it can't be that bad. So I pushed it up a little higher, but at the same time, the animation was just lackluster. The storyline, you know, it was a little confusing. It wasn't bad, but a little confusing. I did like that they made the game exciting, and they, had certain players being put on as substitutes, which we could predict by the fact that they got the most time, but at least they got into the game. Um, and there were some good moments, like, the main character's parents meeting certain other people and stuff. But ultimately, it had some problems, especially the animation being lackluster, kind of like the it kind of reminded me of what I've been told about in One Punch Man, where I saw
Mhm.
this one scene from One Punch Man season 3 where they show they have like this whole scene and it's all just one page, just scanned. They just scanned down this one page and had like a whole scene out of it. And this wasn't that bad, but it wasn't as good as the first season, that's for sure.
I think I know this scene you're talking about. I think I saw someone post it. Was this the one
Mm.
where where it's kind of a far shot and they're all like in some sort of like rubble thing looking away? I think that's what the
This
scene I
had
saw.
no, this is a different one.
Okay. At
Yeah.
least that's what I think it looked like. I'd have to double check, but yeah. Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot of things about that. Let's see if in the end, if at the end people will the final episode will manage to sort of redeem it in people's eyes, kind of like happened with Blue Locks. Like if you go to my anime list and you look at where Blue Lock season 2 is now, it took a noticeable jump at the end because I guess people decide, oh well, the ending's better. But maybe I should have said that when I actually get to Blue Lock. So um anyway, so let's see. Oh, just for the record, you said Blue Lock was 8. Well, I got that
Yeah.
completely wrong. Neither of
Uh-huh.
my guesses were right. I already mentioned I
Okay.
was off with Don to Don. I won't mention the other one, but you haven't
Mhm.
said it yet. So for number 8 for me, well, let's see if you get it. Got mine right. It was Mashal. So this was one where, unfortunately, this is the thing where the first season, which I seem to recall being better, was so far ago that it's harder for me to remember it in comparison to the second season, which still had some funny jokes, still had some good stuff, but it definitely had quite a bit more things that I just didn't think were that funny or interesting. It just kind of all averages out to be basically right here in the middle for me.
Mhm. No, I failed on this one too. I had Blue Exorcist as my top pick for your middle one, and I had My Hero Academia as my second pick. So did not get that right, but we move on, and we are all the way up to number 7 here. And number 7 seems to have gone down just because of last week's. Just okay, Bleach has won 4 out of 5 Toonami things for me. Yet I feel like it's actually been declining in quality, even though it's been the best thing on Toonami. So yes, 7 is Bleach Thousand Year Blood War. Um, it hasn't had much competition on Toonami, but it it's too dark. I love the characters except for Squad Zero. I hate Squad Zero. And well, I mean, I don't like the villains, but you're supposed to not like the villains, so that's not a problem. But I don't like Squad Zero, and I feel it's just a little too depressing, and we don't have the lighthearted moments that the original series has. Like I've gone back and watched all of Bleach almost, all but 4 episodes so far. And um there is almost always a lighthearted moment in every single episode. And we have none of that here. So again, Bleach is high because I love the characters except for Squad Zero. But I think it's an interesting plot line, the Ichigo versus Uryu, and having him be the Sasuke of the series. I think that's an interesting storyline. And they've made me not like Uryu, so that was also a successful thing. But ultimately, yeah, it's not as high as it could be. So number 7.
Okay. Well, I got that. That was my second guess for your highest. So
Mm.
I actually, there's a comment you made to me about it after last week that made me think, oh, maybe it won't be as high as I thought. But I decided to keep my prediction there. But I was totally wrong on that one. Anyway, so you had Bleach for 7. And oh, one thing I noticed, you've been saying that the only one you'd really dislike is Squad Zero. Does that mean that you like Hiyori now?
No.
Okay. It just seems such a conspicuous absence. I needed to check. Okay. So, number 7. Well, yours started with BL and mine starts with that because it's Blue Lock. This one, yeah, it's the same issues. The animation was not good. I initially I was thinking, well, it's not great, but it's not as bad as people are making it sound. And then as the season went on, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm really seeing how people make fun of it here. Still, and also I think even besides that, compared to season 1, I think the story was less interesting. That said, the story was still interesting enough to keep me going. They did manage to bring in some better animation towards the end of the season, which helped bring it up. They did it at the time when it was most important, so they get some credit there. That said, and once again, the final game, decent. That said, it's definitely a step down from the first season, where I think I gave it number 1 that year. So it's down to number 7. So definitely real steps down, but still not enough to make me rank it lower than this. So Blue Lock for me is number 7.
Okay. Okay, we're getting close to the good ones, but this one more is above average than good. So I'm going with number 6, Blue Exorcist. And I liked the whole traitor plot the first time around. I don't know if this second one is going to be as good, but I thought that was a pretty good twist, even though I saw the thing coming a mile away. It still was a pretty good twist. It's got very good characters. That's probably the best thing about it, is that I like many of the characters, and that's always important. Obviously, it has its own flaws, like the ridiculous fan service scenes, or some of the confusing stuff with religious words that don't mean anything. But yeah, um, it's above average. It's pretty good. It just wasn't as good as the things to come above it. So, um, it was a successful year for Blue Exorcist. Now, did we have it any recent years? We didn't have it last year. Didn't have it.
It aired a
Kind of.
little. Sorry. It aired a little bit. It aired towards the end of last year, but I didn't think it was enough. It wasn't really enough episodes for us to properly rank it. So those just kind of, carried on into this year.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So, yeah, Blue Exorcist number 6.
All right. Time for my number 6. Well, this was one that we almost didn't pick up, but you insisted on watching it. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go with it. And yeah, well, I'm glad you did because it ended up being pretty good. That's number 6, My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Yeah, this was a pretty solid show. Some of the things were a little weaker. I really generally just don't care too much about what was going on with Pop Step, but Knuckle Duster, that was his name, right? It had Knuckle in it. Yeah, okay. His stuff was a lot more interesting and really helped elevate the show. So it all and fortunately that was the stuff that got a lot of attention. So yeah, this was pretty solid. It was it's hard for me to really compare this compared to My Hero Academia because we've got like 12 episodes of this and we watched how many episodes of that? We must have been at least in the 50s that Toonami aired on it. Now I need to double check that quick. But yeah, it definitely was. I can't compare. It's hard for me to compare it to My Hero Academia as a whole, especially because I haven't seen all the anime. I read all the manga, but a lot of that gets mushed together. But this was solid. This was a pretty solid spin-off / prequel, basically. So yeah, and it's going to be coming back soon, so we'll be able to see more of it. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, this was one where you were ahead of me in terms of it. So I'm glad you kept watching it. So I kept watching it, and I realized, oh yeah, this show did get more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But it's not my number 5. My number 5 may be a little surprising, but it's Anne Shirley. How can I put it? I don't find the plot to be all that interesting, yet I found myself always to be like the plot was, just like, okay, it's just Anne living her life, basically it's just a slice of life, and I've never been a big slice of life person, but at the same time I always found myself watching and glued in on the action, and it was just like I'm paying attention to it, so obviously I must like it a little more than I want to admit. So yeah, it had it had some good moments. It also had some dull moments. But overall, I enjoyed it a lot more than I even want to admit. So it gets up here into the top 5. I'm not sure if there will ever be another season of it. I don't think it needs one. I think it would be okay if it ended right where it's at. But yeah, number 5, Aunt Shirley.
All right. Oh, yeah. Just to answer the question I was asking about how many episodes of My Hero Academia, I know there was a stretch you weren't watching it, but for the record, the number on Toonami I underestimated by so much. 138. There's been 138, and then there's 170 total, some of which never aired there. Maybe they will, and we'll watch it that way. So, back to the rankings. Number 5. For me, that one's Shangri-La Frontier. This was a fun show, but I do think it was a step down from the first season. There was a lot more time where it kind of spent on things that I just didn't think were that interesting, like when Sunraku just spends several episodes playing the giant robot game, which paid off plot-wise, but just kind of went on a bit long. A little too much time not with the characters that I cared more about, but still there was a lot of good stuff here. It got pretty interesting, especially in the final few episodes, and I'm really looking forward to the next season. It stays good and just not quite as what ranking did I have last year for it? Let me check. Okay, it was number 3, and it's number 5 now. So definitely a drop, but still, the good stuff definitely outweighed the weaker stuff by a good amount.
Mhm. Okay, so we're moving on to number 4. Um, this one I had a very hard time ranking. I didn't know where to put this one. It could have been as high as number 2. It could have been a lot lower, but it's Kowloon Generic Romance number 4. Um, uh, yeah, it started out very good. I was very interested in it. I thought it was a great storyline, a great plot, everything. I loved the characters. And then about, you know, several episodes in, maybe 5 or 6 episodes, it started getting more and more confusing until I was totally confused at the end. But I feel like it deserves a lot of credit for at least making me interested in everyone's storylines. It made me get into the whole mystery of why this Kowloon is different from the other Kowloon and all that stuff. And I really cared about Reiko's life. Um, Unfortunately, it didn't do much right in the second half of the season except for sticking the landing. It had a pretty good ending that made it feel pretty satisfying. But aside from that, it misses the mark of being higher than it could have been, and unfortunately, um, doesn't get up to number 2 where I thought about putting it. But number 4 is pretty high anyway. So Kowloon Generic Romance number 4.
Okay. So after that, it's time for my 4th place, which
Hmm.
is Witch Watch. Wow, I started with which is, and then immediately afterwards realized I was making a pun. I was not actually trying to do that. It just came out by accident. So yeah, this was a funny show. I mean, well, obviously, if it's number 4 and it's a comedy, obviously it's funny. Uh, the characters are pretty likable. It does one of the hardest things with a comedy is consistency. You have to really get everything work like consistent in that. And there were still a bunch of, episodes or segments. Well, I don't know if there were any episodes I particularly had issues with, but more just segments. And those that can kind of bring it down a bit. And unfortunately, it was a bit uneven with some of that. There's like a lot of good stuff here, but it just isn't consistent enough for me to rank higher than this. But hey, it's still got number 4.
Okay. So we move on up to number 3, which is My Hero Academia Vigilantes. So that I wasn't going to watch, and then I just decided, you know what? I got some free time. I figured I'll just catch up with it and see what it's like. And after watching a little bit more of it, I was like, these are pretty interesting characters I really care about, and the whole theme of it makes a lot of sense. It was very easy to follow along with. Uh, I think the only thing keeping this show out of a higher spot is the fact that um, it's got the My Hero Academia name, and I never really cared for the original My Hero Academia. But um, yeah, it. I mean, that's not the only thing keeping me out of the first spot. I'm being a little sarcastic there, but um, it's definitely something that I'm glad I watched, and I don't know. I just really don't have much else to say about it. I just thought it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. For me, number 3. This one is Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War. I did not see me putting this higher than you, but I thought this was just a solid one, especially because I remember reading the manga and not being that interested in a lot of it. To be fair, we have so far mostly adapted to stuff I thought was more interesting, but even the later stuff, I think the anime did a good job. It's a good adaptation. It has elevated the source material. It fixed some of the issues I had with it. It's been going through it quickly. It doesn't get like bogged down too much. It's just been fun, and I'm really interested in seeing more of it. Again, that was one of my big criteria. How much do I want to see more? And I want to see more, which is especially notable because of the fact that I already knew everything that happened. So, although apparently they might make some changes in the final stretch, so we'll see what we got there. Yeah, I was not as bothered by, I guess, the lack of jokes as you, although maybe things would have been better if, ironically, if there had been some unintentional humor. Like, there's nothing quite like, remember when Yami announces that you thought the Espada were ranked from number 1 to number 10, but I'm actually number 0, the strongest, and then gets beaten off screen. Stuff like that. So, but that aside, it's been pretty solid, I think. But ironically, this was actually originally going to be my number 2 pick. And you mentioned how the last episode made you drop it down. That convinced me to drop it down also, because I started realizing, yeah, the last few episodes haven't been all that great, kind of slow paced, not that interesting. So that dropped it down one slot to number 3, meaning ironically, this would have been number 2 if we had recorded this 1 week ago. But I count all the stuff that I've seen, and so it is at number 3.
Okay. So the big moment here probably isn't a big moment with you because I've given my number 1 away for months now, but number 2 is Shangri-La Frontier. This is a show that really grew on me, a show that, quite frankly, the first season I was like, yeah, I'm watching it, but I don't really care much about it. But after a while, it became one of my favorites to watch. There was a stretch in between March and May where Shangri-La Frontier was my top show of non-Toonami shows 6 out of 7 weeks, and maybe it didn't have much good competition there, possibly, but it obviously did something right, and yeah, and it's, I think, got the second most of wins for a show this season for me. Yeah, it did. It was number 2 in that category too. I love the characters, especially Pentagon. I've always really liked Pentagon, and I really liked where it was headed near the end of the season. That last storyline, wherever they're like gearing up to enter a tournament of a different game, like that got me really interested. So I can't wait for this to come back. I hope it does have another season. I don't pay. Uh, I don't know those type of things, but yeah, Shangri-La Frontier, not as good as Shangri-La, but it's still pretty good.
Oh yeah, in regards to seasons, they did announce there would be a 3rd season. We don't know when, but there will be another.
Okay.
In case you were wondering, I did look up. You were saying April, May, and was wondering what the competition was. There There was Yu Yu Hakusho, Shangri-La Frontier, ReZero, and we were also watching Hyoka there, although we dropped that one eventually.
Mm.
So those were the other ones airing then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so well, it's up to the top two. If people are keeping track, they probably would be able to figure out what these two series are. So we'll just go in to them then. This was another one where I kind of made a last minute switch here because I decided I kind of wanted to rewatch some bits of some of the shows this week to try to, refresh my memory on things and stuff. And that made what was originally going to be number one drop to number two because I started realizing, I really liked this, but there were some more things that I didn't really like in this series that drop it down a little. So number two for me is ReZero. I was interested in this season. I liked after season 2, which I just thought was, I think I liked it more on a rewatch, but it still was a bit of a mess. This season managed to, it feels much more like the actual continuation of season 1. We actually continue on so many things that were set up in season 1, especially the things about the royal selection. All those characters are back and they have importance here rather than season 2 just going and focusing on a bunch of new stuff. We had some pretty cool fights here. I especially liked the one against Regulus, and yeah, it was just exciting to me. I enjoyed it. I like the fact that Subaru has grown as a character and has become more competent. And based on all this, I've got some interest in the next season, which is coming soon. So we'll be checking that out probably. And yeah, that's number 2 for me, ReZero. Just on the whole, a good thing. Yeah, there were some things I could criticize, some kind of flashbacks that were necessary, some other things, but on the whole, it made its way to number 2.
Okay. So that leaves number 1 to go. And if you've been following along this podcast for any bit of time, you probably could have guessed that number 1 would be Witswatch. Of all the shows this year, it stands alone as the one that I consider an excellent show. Some of these other shows were good. None of them was excellent like Witswatch was. It had lots of great characters, lots of great situations, great plot lines, storylines. You had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. It's very funny, had a little bit of romance to it. Of all the shows we watched, there really wasn't anything that came close. So whenever I made this list, it just automatically started one Witswatch, and then I was like, okay, now the other 15. So yeah, there was nothing going to stop this one from winning this year. You probably guessed it because I said it won May Madness, and I said that several times. But I don't know. Again, I don't know if there's a second season or whatever. But
Yes,
there is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So Witswatch, that was my favorite of the year. If you're interested, last year Oshi no Ko. Before that, The Eminence and Shadow. Before that, Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works. Don't have the other ones up on hand right now, but Witswatch joins those shows in the esteemed annals as one of my number 1 shows.
All right, time for me. Once again, if you've been keeping track, you know what it is. This feels so weird to put this as my number 1 show, which, by the way, in case you haven't calculated out, is Yu Yu Hakusho. Because, like I said, well, first, this was originally going to be number 3 with Bleach and ReZero higher than it. But I decided to drop both of those down and put this here. partially because of the things I talked about before. Bleach like just got less interesting. I kind of reconsidered Re:Zero, but in the end, what worked for me, Yu Yu Hakusho this year, where we started with midway through the Dark Tournament up until where we are now, which is considered the best part of the series. It's weird to put this because at its best, I don't think Yu Yu Hakusho is the best of these series. In fact, I'd say that basically going down at least through number 5, all of those shows at their best were better than Yu Yu Hakusho at their best. But Yu Yu Hakusho, at least to me, never had the sort of weaknesses those shows had that like kind of dropped them down. It's basically Yu Yu Hakusho, which had like, a lot of funny stuff, some pretty good fights, some characters I liked. Yu Yu Hakusho got number 1, not because it was the most good, but because it was the least bad. Or if you want me to say it in a way that sounds less like a backhanded compliment, it might not have had the highest highs, but it had the highest lows of all the stuff that I've discussed so far. So that's what brings it to number 1. But remember when Yami mentioned that that the spotted don't go from number 1 to number 10? My ranking doesn't go from number 1 to number 16. We have one more, number 0, which was not eligible, but since it was the best thing I saw this year, I still have to mention it, which is To Be Hero X. I marathon that show over the last week. I thought it was spectacular, especially once you got past some of the earlier things, which were a little slow. The E-Soul arc was kind of not great. Cyan's arc, I liked more, but great. But after that, I just was enjoying the show practically the whole time. So it's not eligible, but I felt I needed to put it in there. So that's my number 0 pick, To Be Hero X.
Okay.
Okay. And there we go. Funny thing is that the original joke I was planning to make was that I would have started talking about that at number 1, then put Re:Zero as number 0, but then that dropped down, so I couldn't do the joke, so I had to do that instead. Sorry, that joke did not work as well as I wanted it to because of my fickleness. All right. So that's all of them. Let's see. How did we end up with the scores? I predicted Witch Watch as both being the highest average, which it was, and your top one. What did you think my tops were?
Re:Zero was my pick, and then Shangri-La Frontier.
Oh, dang, you were close there. So,
Yeah.
What was your what did you think was the highest average?
Shangri-La Frontier and Witch Watch.
Okay, so all right, I got more points, but you still got some stuff right. I ended up with 8, and you got 2, I think.
What was the highest? What was the highest average?
Oh, that was Witch Watch.
Okay.
That was my guess for highest average.
Oh, wow. Man, you got a lot right. I got a whopping 2 points out of the whole thing.
Yeah, if my calculations are correct, I think. Oh wait, no, there was one more thing I didn't ask. I that might have changed it. What was your prediction for the largest split? Because that was Yu Yu Hakusho, which I did correctly actually guess.
Man, how did you guess all these? I had Kaiju number 8 and Dawn to Dawn. So I've known for a long time that I had those ones wrong. I expected you to like those shows more. Yu Yu Hakusho, I just kind of threw in there with the One Pieces and the Bleaches and that, and didn't expect much out of it. So
it only made that their last minute. Like I said, I just reconsidered some things. Like I said, it's not I have to say it was not the most good, but it was the least bad.
Mm-hmm.
I felt weird putting it there instead of Re:Zero, but I had to just decide, yeah, that was the one that I most consistently enjoyed, even if it wasn't the one that I most enjoyed. It's a weird number 1, but that's what I got. All right. I think that's all of them then. That's it for this year. We'll see if things work differently. I can tell you that based on what I remember and what I have heard, if we do end up going through Yu Yu Hakusho's final arc after this one, it will not be number one, but for next year. But we'll see then. Anything else to mention? I think we've gone through all the predictions and stuff.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else. Yeah, just Happy New Year 2026. How many more years do we have until the next palindromic year? You know?
I assume that would be would that be
21.
2112?
Yeah, yep, that's what it would be.
I think it would be 2112, yeah.
So we've got what? 86 years, I think.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we're still doing the podcast then.
Yeah. Hopefully.
What are my odds of even being alive then? Well, I don't think I would set how old was the longest how long was the woman who like set the record for oldest confirmed living person?
Yeah.
What was she? She was 120 something. If I'm still alive then I will have outdone her. She lived to be 122 years old. The only person like we have on like modern record to pass 120. There are some like people in the past who there's been claims made about, but they were never like we just can't confirm them. So of the confirmed people, she's the only one who passed 120.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the oldest currently living person right now? Actually, the oldest living person right now, she's 116. So, stick around a few more years and maybe she could pass that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So we've gotten all of that stuff done. All right. Well, that's our end of year podcast. And I might as well. I almost forgot. In case anyone was wondering, here's the order, highest to lowest, based on averaging them. We've got for number 1, Witch Watch, number 2, Shangri-La Frontier, number 3, My Hero Academia Vigilantes, number 4, Bleach, 5, ReZero, 6, Yu Yu Hakusho, 7, Anne Shirley, 8, Blue Lock, 9, Kowloon Generic Romance, 10, Blue Exorcist, 11, Mashal, 12, Don to Don, 13 and 14 are tied, One Piece and Kaiju number 8, 15, Dragon Ball Daima, and 16, Lazarus. We were for the most part actually pretty close on a lot of these this year.
Yeah.
So, yep. Next week we will not have. Well, we'll have one apparent possible episode of Don to Don to talk about the preview of the second season, unless possibly they decide to troll us and say, hey, this is just gonna just be a lengthy preview. It won't actually be the first episode. So we'll discuss that if that's the case. Other than that, we'll have our other non-Toonami series to talk about, and that'll be that. I think we'll probably have some more things to talk about then. By then I think you'll have finished your Bleach watch through, so you might want to say some words on that.
Yeah, a lot of things to talk about when it comes to Bleach. So
okay, and I will have then finished catching up and reading through all of your reviews on the Bleach watch through, which I guess we might as well throw it out. Where can people read your episode by episode reviews of Bleach?
TommyAPhillips.com. Click on the Anime Bowl 2 link, and then there's a big table, which is very unwieldy, but I don't know any other better way of doing it. So go through the table and or just start at episode 1 and then just just keep on hitting the next button because my reviews are very short, so you can read it in a minute or less. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. It's not quite signing off for the year because the next one will be technically during this year, but well, the next one won't be going up before the end of the year. Hopefully, this one will. So, with all that said, we'll see you next time on our podcast.
Bye.
Greetings, listeners. Welcome to our podcast, Toonami Therapy. I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello, I'm Tommy.
And we're recording December 30th of 2025, the final podcast recording of this year. So yeah, I don't have too much to say at the start really, other than, well, okay, just to mention, we were planning to drop some shows this week because, well, if I remember correctly, 2 weeks ago we decided, well, why don't we just wait 2 more weeks until the end of the year and then make some decisions there, because there's some, we might want to bring something in and that kind of stuff. So we'll get into that when we discuss them. But there isn't really too much to talk about in Toonami. There was, I mean, we did watch the premiere of season 2 of Don to Don, although they aren't going to actually air it for, who knows. My guess is it'll be the replacement for Mashal. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't, since we're presumably just going to watch it again anyway, I don't want to devote too much into it, but was there anything you wanted to say about the season 2 premiere?
Well, it's definitely bizarre and definitely some more fan servicey kind of stuff. Yeah, at least I could keep it. I could keep up with the plot this time around. I was like, okay, I know what's going on. So I thought that was an improvement. I just, uh, yeah, just really bizarre and weird, So.
Yeah, it's my main thing, I guess, is that it does feel weird that we just resolve the cliffhanger between seasons. That was not even a cliffhanger in the manga. It took place in one chapter. So it was a little weird that we just do it like that. But yeah, I don't have too much to add. They're off on a new adventure. They start fighting a giant snake thing. We'll just say our stuff when we actually air this thing for real. So okay. All right, so let's get into it. Since there's so little to talk about Toonami, we can just jump right into all the non-Toonami shows we've been watching. We've got Yu Yu Hakusho, episode 87. All right, so basically Quenma, who has shown up, expositions a bunch about how, yes, my pacifier is actually super strong and can seal, and I'll use it to seal us both away if you won't back off. And Sensui's like, no. Then Yusuke says, what way? I'm the main character. Let me fight. So he insists on continuing. So he stops Quenma and insists on fighting. And then he basically tells them, look, just get the original Sensui out here so I can fight him. Because remember, he's got, was it 7 or 9 personalities? I can't remember.
7. It was 7.
Right. So he gets the original one, and who then proceeds to basically mop the floor with Yusuke so far. So I guess we'll see how that ends up getting finished. The annoying thing is, I know I had some great quip to make here, but now I'm completely blanking on what on the joke I wanted to make. Hmm.
Well,
dang it.
it was an interesting episode. I I feel like it's becoming a little too much. All Yusuke and the other guys are kind of standing around watching. But we did see Kurabara try to fight with his lightsaber and getting stopped. Um, but yeah, this was an average episode. It wasn't too great, um, but there wasn't really anything bad about it.
Yeah, it is. Actually, now that I think about that, it is kind of something I'm realizing because they kept talking up about how important how Kuwabara was getting this big leaping power and all that stuff, which is fine, and that was why the bad guys wanted to get him. But is that going to mean much if he doesn't actually fight someone with it and beat them?
Mm-hmm.
Like all the guys seem to be gone, or are they going to fight the one remaining assistant guy of Sensui? Is that going to be what Kuwabara does at some point? But yeah, you got to clear the stage, I guess, to have Yusuke fight him. So yeah, like I said, I'm trying to remember the exact point where I wasn't where I stopped watching on Toonami when it aired originally. Not like on purpose. Like I said, they just changed the time and I had no idea about it until later. I still remember some of this stuff, so I don't think so we're not at the stuff I missed yet. Oh, one thing I wanted to comment on because you asked about it quite a while ago, so I made a note to myself. Remember when they had those little sticker things that told you if the person was harmed or whatever, and I think you mentioned, well, are they ever going to use them? Why did they bring them up if they are unless they're going to use them again? They still haven't used them again. Well, there's still some episodes left of this arc. Let's see if they do, but so far, yeah, they haven't. All right. So after that, let's go on to the other series that we tried out there or trying out. So we've got To Your Eternity, episode 5. So they basically try to escape, but then they get pursued. March gets when they're trying to fight them off. March ends up taking an arrow meant for what was her name? I keep thinking of her as purple-haired girl, and I can't remember. Perona, I think that was it. Takes the arrow, and then she dies, and it's very sad. And but then they just take her back. They go back to the village, and I guess all the stuff gets resolved, and they're not going to be sacrificing people. And then Fushi, who, for the record, it does stress, has started to act more on his own accord because he does try to protect March, then just kind of leaves to go off on more adventures. And based on the preview, apparently he's going to actually learn to communicate. So that'll be nice. I had kind of mixed feelings on this episode. When March died, which I actually had been spoiled on that, although I thought it took place later. It took place a bit later. I was just like, I don't know. That's one of those things that's supposed to be really sad, but and maybe it's because I knew it was coming, but I was just like, oh, well, okay, I guess that happened. A shame you killed the character that I liked the most in the series. But I don't know. At the same time, I kind of feel like I better get this series. It's more about Fushi just becoming more human and understanding things better. And we're kind of getting that here. And it looks like we're going to finally, like I said, have him learn to communicate. So we'll actually, say things instead of just being around. So I think I still overall like this episode. But how
Yeah,
about you? I
I
know
was
you
kind
haven't
of
really. Sorry, go on.
yeah, I was kind of bored by it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they had some interesting moments in the episode, but mainly, I don't know. I just can't get interested with these characters, and the whole human sacrifice thing has just been going on for too long. It's like finally they're gonna stop. It's like okay, but you wasted the last 4 episodes on that. So, um, yeah, I'm just not really all that interested in it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't think this episode would really change your mind on it. I still have some interest in it though. So, but all right,
Mhm.
so that seems like that might be a possibility to be dropping off. So for the next one, we've got Sanda episode 5. All right. So in this episode, we find out some stuff. So Sanda, it turns out he has a fiance,
Mhm.
and because they apparently do that with they just set that up with kids early on because they that was the thing about this series. There's such a low birth rate now. They got to get set that up right away. But then it turns out that if that Santa can't doesn't work or he dies or something if he falls in love, which is kind of weird because there's been a whole lot of stories about Mrs. Claus. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't. Did a character almost mention that? I feel like there's an episode where someone started to ask about that, but then it got cut off and wasn't answered. But I can't remember. Maybe they were saying something else. Anyway, it seems like maybe he's actually falling for her, and which might be why he's having trouble transforming back into Santa now. Oh yeah, Ono shows up again finally, and we find out no, she didn't die. She just left, and some other character just claimed she died. So there's that stuff, and there's a bunch of talk about growing old and other things, and
And
yeah,
there's
that.
a nice sex scene in there too
Mhm.
between Ono and the other girl.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think that was mostly off screen, but it was definitely I was like, okay, that went farther into that than I was expecting
Uh,
this series to.
yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I, I was kind of dancing around that in my description.
Yeah, so that's kind of what turned me off to this episode. I'm like, okay, I can live with some of the weirdness and stuff, but whenever they have that full-blown sex scene between Ono and the girl whose name I can't remember, it was just like, okay, we're really going for the fan service now, I mean, we're getting on the edge of hentai here. So, I felt very uncomfortable watching this episode. And it didn't have anything from the last episode that made the last episode funny. The last episode had some good jokes in it. This one didn't have any jokes. It just had, um, this weird stuff. And I don't understand why Santa Claus. I'm thinking, isn't there a Mrs. Claus? I'm like totally confused by that. It's like, okay, maybe they fall in love, but they never, you know what? I don't know. I don't know.
Wasn't the plot of the Santa Claus 3 that he had to find a wife, or was that the second movie? Which was I only saw like the first one. Just in case people don't know, the Santa Claus is in Clause. It was a movie, and let's see. Oh yeah, Santa Claus 2, the Mrs. Claus, and that was the one where it says, "Yeah, you got to get married. That's apparently a rule or something." So that's the opposite of this. But I mean, you can just go with whatever you want with the Santa Claus mythos on a show. So I don't know, but yeah, it was weird. I don't think it was like it wasn't explicit in anything we saw, but it was a kind of a it's surprising in like what we actually got described. I didn't have on my checklist to think, this is a little I don't think Don to Don went as far as this.
Mhm.
So yeah, I that's a good point. There wasn't as much of the jokes. So yeah, I thought this was kind of a weaker episode.
Yeah, definitely a
Okay.
weaker episode.
Yeah. So after that, we've got The Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess, Episode 5. All right, so Anna manages to, even though she is actually so hopeless at dueling, she can't actually, she can barely even swing the sword. She is able to break up the fight. Finally, she tells Yomi she's so unable to convince Yomi to stop, attacking people, that she just tells him, look, I'm just pretending to be nice to them. This is all really a plot of mine. So I need you to stop attacking them. And then he says, okay. And that solves the problem, I guess. And then, yeah, there's all that kind of resolves all of that stuff. And then Yomi just leaves, and yeah, that's the stuff. There is a bunch of things about, her thinking about her when she was actually alive and stuff. And it was kind of funny. What was it when her mother is trying to tell her to check out these things? It says, you need to get them out of your system now, because then you'll get into gacha if you don't when you're an adult, and that'll cost you a ton of money. Something like that. That was kind of funny. And yep, that was the episode basically.
Yeah, I'm kind of annoyed with the main character's ick now, with panicking over every last thing, over everything, and it's just getting annoying to me, and I don't feel like we're actually moving along any further towards a goal, for her to escape this world or whatever. I don't know where we're going with it, so that's a problem too.
Yeah, that's like the issue I've had with the show, because I think it's just getting repetitive. Because the premise is actually really promising. I mean, there's all these villainess sort of series. Reincarnated is the villainess, and this one had a kind of cool like twist on it. It's not like some game she played that she's in the world of. It's actually just this story she wrote when she was a teenager that was kind of dumb, and she has to try to remember how it is and deal with all the dumb ideas that her teenage self had. All that's like a great premise. And there's a lot of great jokes you can make with it. And they were in the first few episodes. And then it kind of stopped with that. So I don't know exactly what I mean. I feel like the problems started when Yomi was around, and he's gone. So maybe it might get more interesting afterwards, but definitely at this point, it does feel kind of repetitive. And yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. We're being kind of down on the shows right now. So, but we're going to have to drop off at least one of these. So we might be a bit more critical for that reason. Anything else to say about it?
Nope.
All right. So after that, we've got Gnosia, episode 5.
Okay, so this time around we have a new occupation that someone can be, which is a doctor, and a doctor can go and figure out who the last person, whether they were a Gnosia or not. So this is pretty important thing. But then, as always, it kind of backfires, and but this guy tries to turn into a cat, which yeah, really, and
When we sorry to interrupt, when we saw him last episode, I thought, oh, he's just got a guy. He's a guy that has a cat around his neck. You look closely and it's like, no, the cat's literally through his neck. They have fused.
yeah. So they do it right one time, and then they kind of solve it, but that doesn't free Yuri from the loop. And now we're going again, but this time we're outside the spaceship and out in like a field. So we changed venues. So that ought to be interesting to see what we're doing. It feels like whatever you play, like Mario versus Donkey Kong, you beat them in all the city things, and then Donkey Kong grabs his bag and runs off, and now you're off in like a jungle now, trying to fight him in a jungle, something like that. That's what it reminded me of. So I thought it was a pretty good episode.
Yeah, it was interesting. Although the other new character, the girl, has what honestly, and man, what might be, and remember, I've seen a lot of anime, so this is really saying something. One of the least practical outfits I've seen. I just like what. Why does that stay? Can that thing actually stay on right? I don't know. Seemed weird. So that seemed to be kind of an excuse for fan service. But other than that, if you set that aside, yeah, this was an interesting episode. We learned some more stuff. I'm going to assume that this is still basically the tutorial section of the game because we're still introducing new characters and abilities. So,
do you know anything about the game that would lead you to thinking that?
well, just the fact that they were still introducing these things. Like we brought in 2 more characters. We got introduced to this new doctor role. So that seems like we're still in a sort of extended tutorial. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on how you define tutorial, but I kind of assume once we get all like the rules and everything completely explained, once we actually meet everyone, we'll sort of be past that. I think I read, because I was looking at some stuff on the game. I think they said something, I can't remember the number, but they said something, they said like, well, we kind of thought of the first something loops, I think it was like 20 something, as sort of being a tutorial for the game. So I don't know if we're going through them faster than we were in the game or not. Actually, speaking of the game, so I mentioned, I think a while ago, my brother played the game and I talked to him a little about it before, but I hadn't seen much of the show, so there were kind of some basic things. So I talked to him more at length because I was curious about some of the things. So here's some interesting things about the game versus the show. In the game, I've mentioned that Yuri on the anime, at least in the anime itself, it has kind of tried to avoid giving any explicit gender to Yuri. Characters just say like they in reference to Yuri and such. Yeah. Like I said, the Crunchyroll description uses she, and honestly, we've seen Yuri shirtless. It doesn't look like a girl. So there's that. In the game, you can choose to like your gender at the start, and that can actually affect how some characters react to you. Oh. But I don't know if it makes that big of a difference. Because I was actually looking at some things on this. For example, when you play the game, if you choose male, remember that girl who's like the first time we meet her, she's like, "Oh, I'm totally in love with Yuri." Apparently, she only does that if you choose male. So I don't know if that happened, if that's the case, if that means something towards what Yuri is supposed to be in the anime. But here's the interesting thing. Yuri, in a way, is an anime original character because your name is like not Yuri. I think you can just choose whatever, and you never see yourself. The protagonist does not have a character design in the game. That means Yuri was actually the appearance we have. That was made for the anime. I think it was made by the same people who made the game. So, consistency there. But yeah, we never knew about, like, Yuri did not have a character design until the anime. So that was kind of interesting. He also mentioned, because I was asking about, remember, this is something I keep bringing up that confused me, which is, okay, they have the thing that will tell you if there's still a Gnosia on board. So if they get the first guess wrong, why do they just wait to go to warp and let it, and have the Gnosia kill someone rather than doing it right away again and such? And he said, well, that's not really a thing in the game, the light thing. you just basically, once all the Gnosia get picked, then the loop just ends and you restart. And if you or if you get it wrong and they take over the ship, then well, the loop still resets that way. Although he didn't remember if there's any explanation as to why, if there's two Gnosia, you don't just immediately vote for two people. And you instead just go to the warp. He couldn't remember. Remember, I'm trying to remember what he told me about a game that he was trying to remember that he played years ago. So there could be, some errors passed along the way. But that was the impression I got, that there wasn't an explanation still. All you have to do is just say, well, we can only freeze one person at a time because of insert technobabble explanation here. That's all you got to do, and the question goes away. And yeah, so that's some of the stuff there. The way the gameplay works apparently is you wake up at the start of the loop, you find out if someone's an engineer or a doctor, or maybe there's some other stuff, and then you have the initial conversation and meeting, and you talk and try to figure things out, and people vote. You try to persuade people to who you think it is. As you go through the loops, you can basically level up your abilities to become better at figuring out who the Gnosia is and better at persuading people and that kind of thing. And you need to, of course, not get chosen yourself at the beginning. And then you just spend some time with one or two of the people there, and you talk to them and continue to try to figure out things. So and then you go to have more votes and stuff. So that's how he described the game to me, or at least once again how I remember him remembering the game. So might not be 100% right. So I don't know if that helped, but that's apparently kind of how the game itself plays out. Okay. Episode 5 of May I Ask for One Final Thing.
Okay, so for this final thing, we have Scarlet punching up the guy who was running the whole sleigh box, and everyone gets to go free and stuff, and everyone's happy. And then Julius kind of makes things uncomfortable for her, and then this guy, this stalker guy, comes after her, and she punches him over and over again, and he won't quit until she finally gets him to be Team Rocket and blast off again. And yeah, and I forget. I this is stupid on my part, but I can't remember how this episode ended. So would you please help me with that much?
Am I misremembering? I thought the part where was that this episode? I thought the part where the guy who kept, trying to hit on her when she punched away, I thought that was the previous episode. Am I misremembering?
What episode was this?
This was episode 5.
Let's see if I got this wrong again.
I mean, I might be misremembering. Maybe that was something that happened in this episode I got mixed up and thought was in the previous one. Let's
see. What episode did I watch?
Did the episode you saw, did that have them talking about the different religions and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's this one. Maybe what you're describing was in this episode and I got mixed up. Okay. Yeah. It's Oh, wait. I think I might have misunderstood what you were saying. I think I was the person that the person she punched away as Team Rocket. That was the bad guy. I was thinking of the previous episode where I think she did that to someone who wasn't exactly a bad guy, but was just annoying. So
yeah.
Okay. So I just misunderstood you. That's why I got confused. Okay. Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's the episode. And Yeah, he does. It is weird. Like he uses the gun, but someone else takes a bullet and there's like this stuff where it's talking about why he's as if he's dead. And he's like, actually, I'm still alive.
And
So because
she's disappointed. She's disappointed. Yeah.
but yeah, we there's that stuff. Yeah, and yeah, I'm not going to like cover every single thing we left out, but that was the episode essentially. That and some other comedic stuff. Yeah, it was kind of fun. I feel like when I compare this to the Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess, this is also a series that kind of has a particular shtick, but it hasn't run it hasn't run out its welcome as quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, like the punching thing is going to need to have something else eventually to become more interesting. It can't just be every episode, oh, she punches the bad guy and she wins. There has to be more. So hopefully there is more to it as we go along. For now, I'm enjoying it, so I'm not going to complain.
Okay, well, as long as I know this is the cheapest joke, but well, as long as we get more animation in the actual One Punch Man season 3. By the way, I did comment. I was wondering. Well, let me see if maybe it'll take it'll end on a strong note. The rating, like opinions will go up like Blue Lock. I'm just checking my anime list. Nope, it's about where it was a month ago. So yeah, people just weren't huge on that series. I don't want to I don't want to keep kicking a series we're not even watching anyway. I just wanted to, because I mentioned that in a previous one, to give a small update on that. Okay, so yeah, that's all of them. Well, that went fast, but we didn't have that much to discuss really. So I guess we should now be on to the thing about what series we should be keeping in or and stuff. So okay, so what series I guess would you most want to drop or most want to keep?
I'd like to keep May I Ask and Gnosia. The other ones, I'm kind of just like, yeah, I can drop them if necessary. So, yeah.
Okay. I mean, if we drop one, then we'll just keep with these. If we drop two, then we can bring in and start watching season 3 of Spy Family, which we've been delaying on. So
yeah, that's what I want.
Probably want that. If we do a third, I don't really know what we would replace it with. Do you want to just watch? Would you want to watch a second episode of Yu Yu Hakusho?
Yeah, we could try that.
Okay. Okay, well, I guess it's simple because I'm not. I mean, I like To Your Eternity, but if you're not interested in it, I don't want to drag you along with it, especially because it's so much longer than the other ones. Like the others, we've got like what 7 episodes left. To Your Eternity has about let's see, when it finishes airing this season, assuming it's the same length as the others. We did 5 episodes. We've got, I think, about 55 episodes left of it to go. So yeah, that might be simple. All right. So, okay, I guess that's it. We'll just be dropping off To Your Eternity, Sanda, Dark History of the Reincarnated Villainess, bringing Spy Family season 3, and at least for next week, double up on Yu Yu Hakusho, and that'll be what we're doing going forward. Just in case anyone's wondering, we actually totally agreed on this before the podcast, but we just tried to mimic the conversation we had, but do it more quickly and efficiently for your sake. Okay. Yeah, there. Yeah, this was compared to the last time we tried our May Madness bracket thing. This did not turn out as well as that one. Maybe it's because we didn't do it in May. That's a problem. We set it up for September. So we ended up with fewer series that we enjoyed. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's it for all of those. So maybe when next May comes, we'll try it again, and that'll actually work out. And that'll should work out because it's actually May. Actually, I'm pretty sure it'll work out because there's at least two because it's got both Akane Banashi and Liar Game, whose manga I really like. So the anime might be good, although I read Liar Game like 20 years ago, so who knows whether I'll like it still. But we'll await for that in, months from now. In the meantime, I guess we can say, I don't know, what was your favorite of this week?
Well, my favorite Toonami episode is surprisingly Dawn to Dawn.
Really?
And yeah. And my favorite non-Toonami, this is a tough one because I did like a lot of Gnosia, but I thought there were some funny moments with Scarlet and Julius, so I had to go with May I Ask as my pick there. And for the final Best Girl of the Year, yes, I made it. Yuriko from Gnosia wins it. And yes, that means that I made it through a whole year not using a girl twice. So we'll see if I can do that next year. And it's going to be challenging, but it resets. So anyone who was used this year can now be used again. For the record, the first Best Girl of the Year was Botan back on January 2nd, 2025. And we've come a long way from there. So there you have it.
All right. Well, I guess we might as well then move. That's all of those. So, anything else you want to discuss? You
Oh,
did recently finally finish your year-long one episode per day watch through of Bleach.
yeah. Somehow I got through 366 episodes in 364 days. I'm not sure how that worked out, but I ended up 2 days ahead of pace. And I have to say that I liked Bleach a lot more than I originally thought I liked it. So instead of this decreasing my opinion of the series, it actually improved my opinion of the series. And the parts I loved, I still loved, and the parts I hated weren't as bad as I thought they were. So um, I I was surprised though that all the new captains and all that new stuff that happens within like a little 2 minute blip of the final episode. So if you blink, you miss it. And um, so that was surprising to me. I didn't expect that to go by so fast. I thought the Eisen fight was a lot longer than it actually was. For me, it felt like pretty rushed actually. So um, I don't know why I expected it to be longer, but it maybe it was long, and it just didn't feel that way to me. But um,
Well, when you say the Aizen fight, how are you quantifying that? Are you just talking about Ichigo's fight directly with him, or are you talking about
right,
including
right.
all the stuff before that? Oh, okay, yeah. Because usually when people talk about the Aizen fight being long, they're not specifically talking about just Ichigo fighting him. They're talking about, from his defeat, counting backwards to when all the other Soul Reapers first attack him.
No,
So
I'm just talking about the
okay.
Ichigo versus Eisen part.
I saw one person complain, why did Aizen spend more time like messing with Ichigo's friends than actually fighting Ichigo?
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going.
No, one of the things that I miss, believe it or not, what I miss the most about Bleach is its filler. And that sounds weird, but the filler would always supplement these minor characters and really help their personalities and help their characters get developed. You know, characters like Nana and Rangiku and, you know, just random people, they would get their characters fleshed out a little bit thanks to the filler episodes. But now there's no more fillers, so those characters are kind of neglected forever now. And they're never going to get another chance to, you know, be a star character. So I miss the filler. I miss the lighthearted moments in every episode. I miss the humor. So many things I miss about the original Bleach that aren't in the Thousand Year Blood War. And most of all, I feel like this Thousand Year Blood War is like, it's not as bad as Ichi Emo, as I called him, because he was super emo in these certain episodes where he lost his powers, so now he's just kind of pouting and complaining and doesn't want to do anything. But yeah, there were times that with that Bleach seemed a little down, but that's the way Thousand Year Blood War seems all the time. And it's like, well, you know what? Bleach proved that you can have a serious series and still have some fun along the way. So I don't know why Thousand Year Blood War insists on this super depressing, super dark tone, but yeah. So Bleach, I went back and adjusted it on my anime list, gave it an 8 out of 10 instead of the 7 that was on there, and yeah, definitely worth the watch. I'm so glad I did it. It was totally worth it, every bit of it. So I'm thinking of doing another one. I've got some plans of something I might do. We'll see. Right now, I need a break from watching every single day, but I do have an idea of what I might be doing in the new year. So stay tuned to that.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know what I could rate all the earlier Bleach stuff because I have not seen it in so long. So many things forgotten. I mean, I did I see the final filler arc, the one where there were like the duplicates of everyone. I feel like I might have seen it, but it's such a blur I can't remember. I remember in your reviews with I went through and finished them. You did not like that arc. I remember. Maybe that's why I completely forgot about it. What One thing I wanted to ask, because I remember seeing some people say this way back when the Bound arc was airing, and maybe this was wrong. I don't think I've seen anyone mention it afterwards, but some people said that they thought that the arc kind of felt like a ripoff of the current arc of Yu Yu Hakusho. Did you you saw the Bound arc way more recently than me? Did you feel like they really had that much in common? The only thing I remembered was they it felt similar in that, some guys captured one of the main characters and the others had to go and try to rescue them. But then it turned out the people who kidnapped them were actually good guys and were working under the sort of mentor character. And that was pretty similar, but then the rest seemed kind of different. Did you think there was much of a similarity between them?
Nope, not
Okay.
at all.
All
I do
right.
not see any similarities to Yu Yu Hakusho at all. So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I might all right. Like I said, I could actually the opening, maybe it was even just talking about the opening. The opening stuff I described did seem really similar, but after that it didn't really seem like there's that much that I remembered. Okay. So, got that. All right, now time for the one of the most important questions, especially because you remember them better. What do you think was the best Bleach opening, the theme song?
I will go with Shoujo S by Scandal. That's my
Okay.
favorite one.
Which
That
number
is
was
my favorite.
which
I don't
number
know what
was it?
number. I don't know what number it is, but it's called Shoujo S by Scandal. That's my
Okay.
favorite one.
It's the 10th opening theme for. I was trying to see what number, the 10th. Okay. I can the only ones I can really remember by number are, I think, the first 5 or so. And after that,
Mm,
I don't remember that one. The one I remember liking the most was, I think it was the third, Ichiri no Hana. But
mhm.
okay, I'll
That
check.
one's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. That also, I think, was the first one I saw. So
Uh,
it was also I also was back when that was when it was airing on Adult Swim, before they changed it back into Toonami on Saturday. And what was which was back when they had the anime theme songs and they actually had the translated lyrics in English on the bottom. So you knew what they were saying. That's
mhm,
so rare now. My understanding is that it's basically some sort of weird copyright song things. Like, basically, if you're going to put in an official distribution some sort of translations, you have to get it cleared by I don't like the people who own the copyright for the music. I don't know if it's the band or the label or whatever, but you need to get all that cleared, and that is extra steps, more legal stuff. And in today's world, where of course you need to get the stuff put available online, like right when it airs in Japan, that they don't have the time to do that anymore. So you don't get that anymore. You would get that, like, maybe back then when the official stuff was actually only released in English quite a bit later. So that's I mean, yeah, you get the anime right away, but there are some trade-offs, like not getting the translations right on the screen. Although I'm sure you can find someone who does that online pretty easily. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we'll see how and what you were talking about filler, that's kind of interesting. Filler, I do think sometimes it is useful for giving some characters more screen time, but then I think it's generally like the filler arcs that are usually less interesting, where you just have all these episodes on those things. And I'm kind of glad we are largely past that nowadays. Okay. All right. Was there anything else I wanted to say? I Yeah, I didn't have too much to say. Oh, actually, there was one thing I was wondering about. I don't think I meant to ask you this during our last episode when we did our year-end rankings. And, well, I'm not going to say what the numbers of anything were. You'll have to listen to that to hear them. But I was just kind of curious, of my placements, which one, you don't have to, like, say, the numbers or anything if you don't want to spoil it, but which of mine kind of surprised you the most?
About what? I'm sorry, I got
Oh,
distracted.
sorry, the rankings. I meant to bring this up last episode when we were giving our year-end rankings, and I was just and I forgot to ask you which one of mine you thought was the most surprising. Like, either I put it way higher than you thought or way lower than you thought.
Probably Yu Hakusho. I didn't realize you liked the show as much as you did.
It's
For me, it's just kind of like this is shonen, so
it's
it's
its
so.
placement. I mean, its placement surprised me also. That's the funniest thing. I just went and I'm like, yeah, that's where it goes. I think the one that surprised me the most was Shangri-La Frontier. I was expecting it to be lower for you, kind of more mid, and you put it higher. So, yeah, there's all of that. So that's about what I was just curious about. Don't think I had anything else to really say. So, yeah, we've been talking a while, even though we didn't have that much to say. So we'll see you all next week for actual Toonami coverage.
Mm.
We'll have our usual stuff there. And for the non Toonami series, there is a bit of a shakeup now. At least for next week. Maybe we'll change it up again later. But for now, we've got 2 episodes of Yu Yu Hakusho, 1 episode of Gnosia, 1 episode of May I Ask for One Final Thing, and 1 episode of Spy Family starting with the new season. And that's the stuff we'll be checking out then. We'll see you all there. And oh, right. I might as well mention, dang, maybe I don't think I asked you, but since this is kind of the last time we'll be talking about it, one last time, where can everyone see your episode by episode reviews of Bleach?
TommyPhillips.com/AnimeBowl2. I think there might be dashes between the words there. And you at TommyPhillips.com, you'll find the tab for Anime Bowl 2, where I have all that and where I will have whatever I decide to do next. So stay tuned.
Okay. So I'm going to guess you're going to watch every episode of Detective Conan. How many episodes is that? Is Detective Conan it's also known as Case Closed. How many episodes is that? Yeah, it'll take you several years to get through all 1,186 episodes, and it's still going on. You could try. Yeah, that's a big one. I can't remember. Did that bypass One Piece at this point? Let me see how many episodes that had. Yes, it did. One Piece is at 1,155. So, yeah, that's a difference of 31 episodes. And with One Piece finally deciding we'll go seasonal, it's going to get bigger, I guess. So, yeah, that's something. Do you have a whole lot of time on your hands and want to watch a ton of anime? Well, there's Detective Conan / Case Closed and One Piece. Or you could just do Bleach if you want something that'll actually fit pretty snugly into a year. Well, the original anime, if you add in 1,000-Year Blood War, then it's going to get longer. All right. I think that's actually the end. We'll see you all next week.
Bye.
In a world full of misinformation, AI deepfakes, and make-believe BS,
we thought you'd appreciate an update straight from the source.
sure, times are tough.
Struggle and flail await. You can't escape the cage of life.
But there's hope.
Toonami is still standing, and our mission remains the same.
To bring you all the best action cartoons and all the coolest content all the time.
Fighting to live is better than waiting to die.
The TV landscape is changing by the day.
It just keeps getting worse.
But we'll keep adapting.
And we appreciate your loyalty.
That's freaky.
So keep watching and keep the faith.
Good things come to those who wait.
They're off to make the world a better place again.
Looking forward to it.
Only Toonami.
On Adult Swim.